Hello, my name is Shania Koo. I use she and they pronouns, and I'm in the class of 2022. What I'm about to read to you today is a shortened version of the reflection that I wrote for Breathe. I wrote it as an exercise in an attempt to process what I was thinking and feeling following the tragic events on March 16th in Georgia. I hope that even a little bit of it resonates with you today. I'm so sad. I'm grieving for the 8 people, including 6 Asian women, murdered by a white man on that Wednesday night. I read the stories from their children and families, and I cannot help but cry. I cried at the thought of hearing my mother's own name used as ammunition in the mouths of people who never even knew her, who never even cared about her. I am mourning the millions upon millions of lives that have been ended, uprooted, disjointed because of Western imperialism and capitalism that have gotten us to this very moment today. The colonization of the entire world, the extraction of nature and people as resources, the massacres of millions, and the traumas that entire generations still carry with them and pass on to younger generations. I am so frustrated when people ask, why did this happen? I can point to the very ways in which violence is wrapped up in US militarism, imperialism, cis-heteropatriarchy, racial capitalism, anti-communism. I can tell you that these murders, attacks, and violences aren't just happening because of hate against bodies like mine, but rather as a continuation of the historic sexual violence that American and Western imperialism forced onto Asian women, that still forces onto Asian women. I know these things, and yet I don't know how to explain to you that you should care about others. I don't know how to explain to you that you should care about others while they are still alive. I am so angry. I want to rip this world apart. I want it to all burn down so that we can begin to build a world that centers care and accountability and healing. I'm trying to be hopeful. Because of abolitionists organizing to circulate resources and help communities feel safe and protected without replicating systems of policing, because of long histories of solidarities between marginalized communities fighting for liberation, solidarities that still exist today, because of people in my life, particularly women and femmes of color who care so deeply for one another, that we will destroy the world if that's what it takes to imagine a new one. Because of the world in my dreams that I love, I want to be hopeful. So fucking help me.
Hi, my name is Ruby, and I'm part of the class of 2024. My mother told me that she felt scared on her trip to Costco. She saw white customers file in without problem, but yelling followed her step through the automatic doors. The screams sent trembles down my mother. The employees thought screams at my mother were slow, as if she could not understand English. To her, this seemingly small encounter at Costco felt like a demand to prove herself in this country. I grew up wishing I was white. Every Barbie doll I held and cartoon I watched was white. In middle school, I had crushes on boys, but they only talked to girls who looked nothing like me. I began waking up wishing for a head of blonde hair and eyes blue like the Maddies and Anns in my class. So you could imagine how confused I became when the white boys started dating only Asian girls, and I saw the Koreaboos and Gleeaboos obsessed with BTS and Attack on Titan, drawing their eyes to mimic mine and my monolids. You pick and choose what you want to like about us. It's best when we can be cute and docile. That way we can be like the Asian girls you dream about. But make sure we don't have thick Asian accents, unlike European accents that are so desired. Have a Chinese accent and you're with broken English, then you're a chink and dog eater. Once you've degraded us, you can scapegoat us. When a pandemic comes, you can escape responsibility. All of a sudden, it becomes a China virus. It's not till we die before you realize you're at fault.
Hi everyone, I'm Athena and I'm a part of Duke's class of 2024. I'm going to be reading out my Breathe sign piece. It's called American Dream and it's going to be my first time reading it out loud, so we'll see how it goes. In Chinese, my given name means freedom. It is pronounced Lan, and the character on top means mountain, and the one on the bottom represents the wind. It represents the movement of wind flowing freely through the mountains because I was born in the land of the free. I grew up reading books about George Washington, the glorious history of the American Revolution, and the country that became a sanctuary for the tired, poor, huddled masses yearning to breathe free. I learned to sing songs about purple mountains and shining seas, to proudly recite the Pledge of Allegiance every morning as a uniformed little girl looking up at stars and stripes. Towards the end of 7th grade, my family achieved the American dream. We traded our roach-infested apartment in the Bronx for a spotless white house on a corner street on Long Island, New York. We swapped out urban views of the White Stone Bridge for white picket fences, perfectly manicured lawns, and spacious lacrosse fields out in suburbia. I swapped hour-long subway rides to school for 5-minute walks across a footbridge overlooking a highway, birds chirping from a nearby strip of forest. There were sort of moments of confusion, the loneliness and the tears that came out at night. The girls at school didn't look like me. They had blonde and brunette hair and sported Ugg boots and JanSport backpacks. They grew up scoring goals to the cheers of soccer moms who drove around in minivans to petition the town to allocate part of the budget to stringing snowflake streetlights during Christmas time. But I adjusted. Eventually, I also walked into the locker room after school, dropping off my JanSport backpack to slip on a black and gold jersey. I placed my hand over my heart, enthralled by the Star-Spangled Banner during the opening of a track meet. On Team Picture Day, my dark hair stood out along the golden, airy halos of my teammates. The reserved, closed-lip smile I learned from my mother contrasted their white teeth. I soon learned to smile like an American, too. After all, I was living the dream, wasn't I? Yet, in the past couple years, months, and weeks, something has changed. I walk outside, the warmth of my face mask unbearingly hot as I cross paths with a soccer mom with her face uncovered. She gives me a close-lipped smile while I keep her distance. Last month was Lunar New Year. Amidst the celebration, my friend shared a post on social media. The Asian-owned bubble tea place near our school was looted and vandalized. I spent my evening reading about hate crimes, recoiling at images of a New York subway station kill all Chinese people for COVID. I'm taken back to a time when 2 months ago I sat in the car with my mother, daydreaming while looking out my window. A car stopped at the light ahead. There was a large American flag mounted on the back, flying next to another black and white version with a blue stripe across the middle, a proclamation for blue lives. On top of the car, I saw gold stars on a red background, and I pointed it out to my mother. "That's the Chinese flag. Is he Chinese?" she asked. The light changed, and as he drove ahead, I noticed the black ink scrawled across the flag. I realized that he was not Chinese. He would rather be anything but Chinese. I turned away from the window, but it was too late. I already felt the stab in my heart. I walked down a friend's street in my town and see American flags waving proudly in front of each house, yet something has changed. For the first time in my life, the sight of the stars and stripes did not elicit pride or hope or a sense of belonging, but fear. They flash back to videos of people from my town barricading Black Lives Matter protesters. They take me back to the Capitol riots in January, to the lies and conspiracies, to the way the flag was waved around as some sort of excuse to trample upon the foundations of our democracy. They bring me back to this past week, the aching in my chest as I read about the victims in Atlanta and wince at video footage of anti-Asian hate crimes and graffiti across the country. They are a reminder of my realization that my family has not truly attained the American dream itself at all, that the dream is still merely an illusion for people like me. Today, as I watch the news and walk the streets, I reflect upon a country that is so torn up in the fight over black and blue that we all end up battered in bruises and divided opinions. A country in which the sought-after illusion of happiness is unattainable for those who do not fit the right criteria, set by people like the suburban developers of my hometown on Long Island. I think of the tightness in my chest when people ask where my family is from. I do not tell them that my mother is from Wuhan, that I first feared for the lives of relatives halfway across the world before the virus spread to the United States as well. I do not want to see the apprehension in their eyes. I think about that uniformed little girl in the Bronx, looking up at the American flag, eyes sparkling as she pledged allegiance to the flag and the republic for which it stands, with liberty and justice for all. That little girl has grown up, and she no longer feels free. Thank you.